My niece spread vicious rumors that I was having an affair, not by mistake, but to deliberately destroy my marriage. My sister laughed it off. She's just being dramatic. What they forgot? I was the one paying for her college apartment. So I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I made one phone call to the landlord that same day. If she wanted drama, she could perform it on a park bench. Lease terminated. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. I used to believe my life was simple, predictable, and safe. After years of hard work, my husband Daniel and I had finally built the kind of marriage people envy. Quiet mornings with coffee, shared chores, date nights every Friday, and the comforting sense that we were always on the same team. There was no drama, no chaos, no secrets, just us, moving through life together with steady rhythm and trust. Our home felt warm in a way that made everyone comfortable. Friends joked that stepping into our living room felt like stepping into a scented candle commercial. Soft lighting, calm energies, a couple who genuinely liked each other. And I'll admit it, I was proud of that. Proud of what Daniel and I had built, proud of the peace we protected. But peace is fragile. And sometimes it only takes one whisper to crack the whole foundation. It began subtly. So subtly, I didn't even recognize it as the beginning of something dangerous. The first sign came during a casual neighborhood barbecue. I approached two neighbors I'd known for years. But as soon as I stepped toward them, their conversation abruptly stopped. Their smiles tightened. Their eyes shifted away as if they suddenly remembered something unpleasant. I brushed it off. Maybe they were having a private discussion. Maybe I interrupted. But then it happened again. At the grocery store, a coworker from my old job spotted me and quickly ducked into another aisle. At the gym, a couple of moms I usually chatted with avoided eye contact. Even on social media, comments and reactions stopped appearing from people who had always been supportive. Something invisible was spreading, something I couldn't see yet. One evening, while I sat on the couch folding laundry, Daniel walked in with a strange heaviness in his posture. He stared at me for a moment longer than usual, as if searching my face for clues. "You okay?" I asked, half distracted by a stubborn wrinkle in one of his shirts. He hesitated. "Yeah, just a long day." But his voice didn't sound right. His eyes didn't look right. And his silence that night felt different, thick, almost suffocating. A quiet panic curled inside my chest. Nothing had happened. Nothing had changed. So why did it feel like something was shifting, slipping, breaking in a way I couldn't understand? I didn't know it yet, but the first spark had already been lit. A single rumor, born from jealousy, resentment, and the twisted imagination of someone who should have loved me, was making its way through my world, poisoning everything it touched. And soon, that spark would turn into a wildfire. Daniel had always been an open book with me. If something bothered him, he said it. If something made him laugh, he shared it. If he was stressed, I knew instantly. His shoulders tightened, his voice softened, and he'd rest his forehead against mine like he needed reassurance. But after that strange evening, something shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was slow, quiet, creeping. Like fog rolling over a field until suddenly nothing looks familiar anymore. In the mornings, he stopped lingering in the kitchen with his coffee. He drank it quickly, barely talking, his eyes avoiding mine as if he didn't know what to say. At night, he stayed up later than usual in his office, claiming he had work emails to catch up on. But when I passed by the door, I sometimes saw him sitting there, just staring at his phone, expression unreadable. The distance grew inch by inch, but every inch hurt, because Daniel wasn't the type to pull away without a reason. One evening while I prepared dinner, I heard him sigh, a deep, exhausted sound that felt heavier than the air itself. "You okay?" I asked gently, turning toward him. He nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just tired." But his eyes didn't meet mine. His smile didn't reach his face, and for the first time in years, he didn't kiss my forehead when he walked past me. That tiny missing gesture felt like a crack splitting down the middle of my chest. I told myself not to overthink it. Everyone has bad days. Work stress happens. But this wasn't one day, it was becoming a pattern. At the grocery store, I bumped into one of Daniel's co-workers. Normally, he greeted me with a big smile, but this time he offered a tight nod and walked away quickly. I stood frozen between aisles, heart pounding as a realization hit me like icy water. It wasn't just neighbors avoiding me anymore. People connected to Daniel were acting strange, too. That night, Daniel came home late. He sat across from me at dinner, barely touching his food. The silence between us wasn't peaceful or comfortable. It was tense, sharp, fragile. Finally, after long minutes of quiet, he looked up with eyes clouded by doubt. "Can I ask you something?" he murmured. My stomach dropped. Of course. But instead of speaking, he hesitated, then looked away, swallowing hard, as if the words tasted bitter. I don't know what to believe anymore," he whispered. And in that moment, the ground beneath my marriage shifted. Something or someone had planted doubt in his mind, and I had no idea how deep it went. It didn't take long for the truth, or rather, the lie, to reach me. But when it finally did, it hit with the force of a punch I never saw coming. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was driving home when my phone buzzed with a message from an old friend I hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey, are you okay? I heard something." Then a second message. "And I hope it's not true." My heart began pounding. I called her immediately. "What did you hear?" I demanded. There was a long pause on the other end, the kind that makes your stomach twist. "Well, someone said you've been seeing another man, secretly, behind Daniel's back." The world narrowed to a single ringing silence. "No," I whispered. "That's not true." "Who said that?" She hesitated again, then gave the name that made my entire body go numb. My niece, my sister's daughter, the girl I helped raise, supported, guided, loved. My niece, Emily. It didn't make sense. Why would she? How could she? But the more my friend spoke, the clearer the picture became. Emily had told a group of her college friends that her aunt was cheating on her husband with a coworker. She painted a vivid story: late-night secret meetings, flirting, emotional distance, guilt. And she told it like she was concerned, my friend added quietly. She said she felt sorry for your husband. My hands trembled around the phone. A story, a completely fabricated, detailed story, one she had told with confidence. From that college group, the rumor spread like wildfire, shared with roommates, friends, acquaintances, and eventually, through someone who knew someone connected to my neighborhood, it reached the people around me. Of course it spread. People love drama. People love secrets. And a cheating rumor? Nothing travels faster. I pulled over, parking on the side of the road as my breaths came uneven. I replayed every moment from the last few weeks, the stares, the whispers, the sudden coldness, the avoidance. It all made sense now. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, battling the sharp, overwhelming sting of betrayal. Emily wasn't a child. She was 22, old enough to understand the consequences of her words, old enough to ruin lives. When I finally reached home, my hands still shaking, I prayed Daniel wouldn't bring it up, but he didn't have to. The doubt in his eyes spoke louder than any accusation. Someone had planted poison in his mind, and that someone shared my blood. I sat on the edge of the bed that night staring at nothing, my heart pounding with confusion, anger, and disbelief. Why would Emily do this? Why target my marriage? Why try to destroy the one thing I'd built with so much love and effort? I didn't have answers yet, but I knew one thing clearly. A storm had been unleashed, and I was only just stepping into the center of it. By the time Daniel finally approached me about the rumor, The air between us had grown so thick with unspoken tension that I could practically feel it pressing against my skin. He stood in the doorway of our bedroom, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes shadowed with something I had never seen in him before, doubt mixed with hurt. It broke something inside me instantly. "We need to talk," he said quietly. Those 4 words, usually harmless, felt like a blade. I nodded, my throat tightening. "I know." He sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. For a moment, he didn't speak. He just stared at the floor like he was wrestling with something he didn't want to say out loud. Finally, he exhaled a shaky breath. "People are talking," he murmured. I felt my stomach drop. "Daniel, please tell me you don't believe any of that." His silence was worse than any accusation. He rubbed his face. "I don't know what to believe. I keep hearing things, from friends, from coworkers. Even Mark said he saw you out late last week." My heart lurched. "I was grocery shopping at the 24-hour market. You were working late that night." He swallowed hard, still unable to look at me. "Yeah, but the story going around isn't just that. They're saying you've been meeting someone, that you're seeing someone behind my back." I stepped closer, voice trembling. "Daniel, look at me." He finally lifted his eyes. They were filled with pain and fear. "I would never hurt you like that," I whispered. "Never." His lips parted, as if he wanted to believe me. Maybe part of him did, but doubt is a poison once it takes root, and Emily had planted it deep. He let out a breath. "Then why would someone say it? Why would your own niece say it?" The words hit me like ice. "Emily, she told you?" "She didn't tell me directly," he said, "but her story is the one circulating." I felt the room tilt. "Daniel, she made it up. She invented it out of nowhere." "But why?" he asked softly, eyes searching mine. "Why would she do something like that?" I shook my head helplessly. "I don't know, but I swear to you, it's a lie." Daniel stood, walking past me, his hand brushing my arm hesitantly, like he wanted to comfort me but didn't know if he should. "I just need time to think," he murmured. And as he walked away, the truth hit me with brutal clarity. This rumor wasn't just hurting my reputation. It was tearing my marriage apart, one seed of doubt at a time. The day after the confrontation with Daniel, I woke up feeling hollow, like someone had scooped out everything solid inside me and left only panic behind. I couldn't sit still, couldn't think straight. The betrayal, the humiliation, the fear of losing my marriage. It all swirled inside me like a storm with no exit. There was only one person I felt desperate enough to turn to, my sister, Emily's mother, the woman who had stood beside me through every major moment of my life. Surely she would understand. Surely she would be furious at her daughter. Surely she would help me fix this before it got worse. I drove to her, house with trembling hands, rehearsing what I'd say, but the moment she opened the door, all the practice lines vanished and I broke down. "I need to talk to you," I whispered, my voice shaking. She frowned. "What happened?" We sat at her dining table, sunlight spilling through the window, completely unaware of the emotional wreckage about to unfold. I took a deep breath. "It's about Emily." Her eyes softened with confusion. "What about her?" I swallowed hard. "She started a rumor about me. She told people I'm cheating on Daniel." For a moment, there was silence, a heavy, loaded silence. Then, she laughed, not a nervous chuckle, not a disbelief giggle, a full, amused laugh. I stared at her, stunned. "This isn't funny." She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, come on, Emily's dramatic. You know how she is. She makes up stories all the time." "That doesn't make it okay," I snapped, my voice breaking. "She's destroying my marriage. Daniel doesn't know what to believe." My sister rolled her eyes, completely unfazed. "Daniel is overreacting, and so are you." A sharp ache shot through my chest. People are avoiding me. They think I'm having an affair. This isn't some silly misunderstanding. She's ruining my reputation. My sister leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Well, maybe if you didn't give her a reason to think something was going on. My breath caught. What is that supposed to mean? She shrugged. You've been busy lately, traveling more, working late. Maybe she assumed. Assumed? So now you're blaming me? I'm not blaming you, she said calmly. I'm just saying, kids exaggerate. Don't take it personally. I stared at her in disbelief. She's 22. She's not a kid. She's still young, my sister insisted. You act like she committed a crime. She might as well have, I whispered. And instead of helping me, you're laughing. She sighed dramatically. Look, if it bothers you that much, I'll talk to her, eventually. Eventually, I repeated, my voice trembling. My marriage is falling apart right now. My sister stood up, clearly done with the conversation. Relax, it'll blow over. But as I walked out of her house, heart pounding, tears burning my eyes, one truth hit me harder than anything else. My niece had betrayed me. But my sister had chosen not to care. For days, I couldn't shake the question tormenting me. Why would Emily do this? Why would a girl I helped raise, a girl I supported, protected, and loved, decide to burn my entire life down with a single lie? Daniel barely spoke to me anymore. Neighbors avoided me like I carried a contagion. And my sister, the one person who should have taken this seriously, had dismissed it all with a laugh. I felt trapped in a nightmare I didn't understand. But then, little by little, the truth began to surface. Not in a dramatic revelation, but in quiet, unsettling pieces that painted a much darker picture than I expected. It started with a message from someone unexpected, one of Emily's college classmates. She wrote, I thought you should know. Emily said she wanted to teach you a lesson. My stomach clenched. A lesson? For what? I messaged back instantly. What does that mean? The girl hesitated, then replied, She said you stopped paying attention to her, that ever since you got married, you abandoned her. I froze. Abandoned? For years, I had been the one paying her rent, buying her books, helping her emotionally when my sister was too busy. I was the one who showed up to parent-teacher meetings, graduations, breakups, late-night crises, everything. And yet, in her twisted version of reality, I was the villain. I wrote again. But why accuse me of cheating? Another long pause. Then, she said she wanted your husband to leave you so you would come back home more. She thought if your marriage fell apart, you'd be desperate and spend more time with her again. I felt physically sick. My hands shook as I reread the message over and over. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't childish insecurity. This was obsession. Emily didn't want me to suffer. She wanted me to depend on her again. She wanted the version of me she had when she was younger, the aunt who dropped everything for her, who listened for hours, who bought her things she didn't need, who prioritized her even above my own life sometimes. Emily saw my marriage as competition, a threat. She wanted Daniel removed so she could have me back. The realization felt like a punch to the chest. Later that evening, I found old messages from her, messages I'd ignored at the time. Why aren't you answering? You didn't come visit me. You didn't send money this month? I guess I don't matter now. And suddenly, everything made sense. Emily wasn't spreading the rumor because she hated me. She was spreading it because she needed me in a way that wasn't normal anymore. She needed control. She needed attention. She needed a version of me she no longer had. And in her warped mind, destroying my marriage was the fastest way to get me back. But she had no idea. Her plan was about to crumble in the worst way imaginable. The more the rumors spread, the harder it became to breathe inside my own home. What was once warm, familiar, and safe now felt cold, like someone had quietly replaced the walls with ice. Daniel moved through the house like a ghost of himself. He still slept beside me, but the space between us felt impossibly wide. Some nights he would turn his back to me before falling asleep. Other nights he stayed awake long after I did, staring at the ceiling with worry etched into his expression. It hurt. It hurt more than anything I'd ever experienced. One evening, I mustered the courage to sit next to him on the couch. "Can we talk?" I whispered. He didn't look at me. "About what?" "About us," I said softly. Daniel sighed, exhausted, defeated, unsure. "I don't know what you want me to say." "I want you to trust me," I replied, my voice trembling. "I want you to believe me when I say I've never done anything to hurt you." His jaw tightened. "I want to believe you, but this rumor didn't just come from strangers. It came from your own niece." The words stung deeper than he realized. "Emily is lying," I said firmly. "She did this to get my attention, to pull me back into her life. I have proof. Her classmates told me." Daniel finally turned toward me, confusion clouding his eyes. "Why would she go this far?" "Because she thinks she's losing me," I whispered. "Because she wants control. It's twisted and unhealthy, but I swear to you, this is the truth." He rubbed his temples. "It's just hard to figure out what's real anymore." A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. "I am real. My loyalty, my love for you, that is real." Daniel's expression softened for the first time in weeks. He reached out hesitantly and brushed his thumb across my cheek, wiping the tear away. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered, "but I also don't want to be the fool who ignored the signs." "You're not a fool," I said, gripping his hand. "You're a man who's been fed a lie so convincingly that it shook everything we built." He closed his eyes, leaning into my touch. "Then help me understand. Help me see the truth." "I will," I promised. "I'll show you everything." For the first time, hope flickered between us, fragile, but present. Our marriage wasn't healed. Not yet. But for the first time since the rumor began, I felt the foundation shift back toward us instead of away. I just didn't know the biggest storm was still ahead. I didn't plan the visit. If anything, it was pure desperation that pushed me to get into my car that morning and drive 3 hours to the college where Emily lived. I needed answers, real answers, not guesses, not assumptions, not the soft, dismissive excuses my sister fed me. I needed to look into Emily's eyes and see the truth for myself. By the time I reached the campus parking lot, my nerves were stretched thin. Students walked by laughing, backpacks bouncing on their shoulders, stress-free and unaware that my entire life was unraveling because of one girl living among them. I made my way to Emily's apartment building, rehearsing what I would say. Would I confront her gently? Would I demand the truth? Would I break down crying? I didn't know, but I didn't get a chance to decide. As I climbed the stairs, I heard voices, loud, laughing, carefree. Emily's voice was unmistakable. I froze, just out of sight, listening without meaning to. She actually believed it? One girl snorted between giggles. "Oh yeah," Emily said, her tone dripping with satisfaction. "Everyone did. My aunt's reputation is basically toast now." Toast? Destroyed? Ruined? She said it like she was talking about a prank gone right. My breath caught. I pressed myself against the wall, trembling so violently my hands felt numb. Another girl chimed in, "But why make something like that up? She seems so nice." Emily scoffed. "Nice? You don't know her. She promised she'd help me more. She said she'd always be there. Then she got married and became busy. I'm her niece. She should prioritize me." The casual entitlement in her voice was chilling. "So you thought breaking her marriage would bring her back to you?" her friend asked, half confused, half horrified. Emily shrugged. "She'll have more time for me if Daniel leaves, and she'll need someone to talk to, someone to rely on." My stomach twisted violently. She didn't even hide her intentions. She didn't regret it. She wasn't confused or pressured. She planned it, she enjoyed it, she bragged about it. Another friend asked, lowering her voice, "What if your aunt finds out this all came from you?" Emily laughed, a cold, smug sound that didn't resemble the sweet girl I once loved. "She won't. She trusts me too much. And anyway, What's she gonna do? Stop paying my rent? The girls laughed with her, unaware of the truth. I was standing right there, listening to every word. A wave of heartbreak crashed over me, followed by something stronger, clarity. This was no misunderstanding, no childish exaggeration, no innocent mistake. Emily intentionally dismantled my life piece by piece, and she felt proud of it. My legs felt weak as I stepped away from the stairwell, tears burning my eyes. The truth wasn't a relief, it was a wound, but at least now I finally knew the depth of the betrayal, and for the first time, I knew exactly what I needed to do next. Driving home from the college felt like drifting through a fog of betrayal. Emily's laughter, her pride, her cruelty, echoed in my ears the entire way back. But anger does something powerful. It sharpens your mind. It clears away the confusion and reveals the truth you've been too afraid to see. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I wasn't crying anymore. I was done hurting. Now I wanted answers. All of them. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into the online portal where I handled Emily's monthly apartment payments. I had never questioned the charges before. For years, I simply paid whatever the landlord sent, believing Emily was responsible, honest, appreciative. But that night, with shaking hands and a burning chest, I clicked through every record she thought I'd never look at. The first red flag hit immediately. The rent amount wasn't just high, it had increased 3 times in the last year. The second red flag surfaced moments later. There were charges Emily had never mentioned. Ever. Pet fees, parking permits, maintenance charges, late-night visitor fees, additional keys, noise violation penalties, cleaning penalties. My stomach twisted. Emily didn't have a pet. Emily didn't drive. Emily didn't mention anything about violations. I clicked deeper into the transaction history, and that's when everything snapped into place. She had added 2 additional tenants to her unit, without my permission, without the landlord's formal approval. 2 guests listed under temporary occupancy, and the names didn't belong to girls. They belonged to men. Not only had she lied, she had turned the apartment I paid for into a party hub. The final blow came when I found the receipts listed under emergency cleanup charges. Spilled alcohol on carpets, broken furniture, wall damage. One bill alone was nearly $500. I remembered paying it without question, thinking it was some kind of regular maintenance fee. That wasn't all. There was a document hidden in the attachments, an incident report from campus security. Emily had been caught hosting an unregistered party in her apartment. The same night, she told her friends she was comforting me because I was cheating and ruining my marriage. She wasn't comforting anyone. She was drinking, laughing, dancing. In the apartment, I worked overtime to afford for her. I leaned back in my chair, chest tight, eyes burning. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was financial, manipulative, calculated. Emily didn't simply lie about me. She used me. She drained me. She built a life of chaos and irresponsibility with my money, and at that moment, one crystal-clear decision formed in my mind, a decision that would turn her world upside down. By the time I closed my laptop, my entire body felt cold, not the kind of cold that comes from fear. This was different. This was the chilling numbness that arrives when you finally see the truth, without filters, without excuses, without hope that things might magically fix themselves. Emily hadn't just lied. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had used me at a level I never imagined possible. Every sacrifice I made for her suddenly felt like a joke I didn't know I was part of. Every dollar spent, every late-night phone call, every comforting word, wasted on someone who saw me as a tool, not as family. I stood up, pacing the room, my thoughts racing faster than my feet. Anger simmered beneath the surface, not wild, not explosive, but controlled, focused, sharp. For the first time, I wasn't crying. I wasn't pleading. I wasn't confused. I was done. When Daniel came home that evening, he immediately noticed the tension hanging in the air. He He placed his keys on the counter and approached me cautiously, like someone approaching a storm that might strike at any second. "You look different," he murmured. "Because I finally know everything," I said, my voice steady despite the whirlwind inside me. We sat across from each other at the dining table. No shouting, no slamming doors, just two exhausted people on the edge of something irreversible. Slowly, I showed him everything. The fake charges, the added tenants, the violation reports, the inflated rent, the party damages, the messages from her classmates, all of it. Daniel leaned back, stunned into silence. "That's unbelievable," he whispered. "She manipulated you for years." "For years," I echoed. "And she didn't care. Not about the money, not about us, not about anyone but herself." He rubbed his forehead, exhaling hard. "I'm sorry. I should have trusted you sooner." The apology hit me deeper than I expected. Warmth rushed into my chest for the first time in weeks. "It's not your fault," I said softly. "The lies were convincing. She knew exactly what she was doing." Daniel took my hand across the table, squeezing it gently. "What now? What do you want to do?" I stared at our hands, his warm, mine trembling slightly, and felt a clarity I had never felt before. "I want consequences," I said. "Real ones. Not a conversation, not a warning. She needs to feel what she tried to make me feel." Daniel nodded. "Then we handle this together." Together. A word I feared I'd lost forever. And that's when I realized the breaking point wasn't the moment I discovered the truth. It was the moment I decided I would no longer suffer silently. Emily had crossed every line. Now it was time for me to draw one. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because, for the first time in weeks, my mind was clear, sharp, steady. I wasn't the confused, heartbroken woman stumbling around in the aftermath of a rumor. I wasn't the aunt who kept giving chances to someone who took and took until I had nothing left. I was done being the victim of Emily's games. It was time to be the one who made the decision. Daniel walked into the kitchen as I was making coffee. He paused, studying me carefully. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked quietly. I nodded without hesitation. "Yes. She needs to understand there are real consequences for what she's done." He squeezed my shoulder gently, and that simple touch anchored me. Despite everything, we were healing. Slowly, painfully, but genuinely. And I wasn't going to let Emily destroy that ever again. I took a deep breath, picked up my phone, and dialed the number printed at the bottom of Emily's rental agreement. The landlord answered on the second ring, his tone clipped and professional. "Hello, this is Riverside Properties. How can I help you?" I forced my voice to stay calm. "Hi, this is about Unit 4B, the one currently leased under Emily Carter." "Yes, I recognize the account," he said. "Is there a problem?" "A major one," I replied. "I'm the person who's been making the monthly payments, and I would like to terminate the lease immediately." There was a brief silence. "Terminate? Are you sure? It's a 12-month contract." "I'm fully aware," I said, "but I will no longer be responsible for her housing. She's violated multiple policies, added unauthorized tenants, and caused repeated damages. I need her removal processed as soon as possible." On the other end of the line, the landlord exhaled slowly. I can't say I'm surprised. That caught my attention. "What do you mean?" He hesitated before admitting. "Emily's been on our watch list for months. There have been noise complaints, parties, furniture damage, unapproved pets, you name it. We tried reaching out, but she insisted all communication go through you. Honestly, I'm relieved you're taking action." A bitter little laugh escaped me. "Trust me, I should have taken action a long time ago." He continued, "If you submit your termination request today, we can legally give her 72 hours to vacate. After that, security will escort her out if necessary." 72 hours, 3 days. Her entire world, Her apartment, her parties, her lies would collapse in less time than it took her to spread the rumor that nearly cost me my marriage. "Yes," I said firmly. "Start the process." "Very well, I'll email you the documents immediately." I hung up the phone, my heartbeat steady, my hands still. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't scared. I was reclaiming my life. Daniel stepped closer. "It's done?" "It's done," I said, exhaling deeply. She wanted chaos. She wanted control. She wanted to break me. I looked him in the eyes, strength returning to my voice. But she forgot something. I'm not the one who's going to fall apart now. The eviction notice hadn't even been delivered to Emily yet when my phone started ringing nonstop. Missed call after missed call. From my sister. Dozens of them. I stared at the screen, feeling a familiar heaviness settle in my chest. She knew. Somehow, she already knew. On the 32nd call, I finally answered. The moment the line connected, she didn't speak. She screamed, "What have you done?" Her voice exploded so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Are you out of your mind? You terminated her lease? You're kicking my daughter out on the streets." I took a steady breath. She's not on the street. She has 72 hours to leave, and she can move back home with you. My sister scoffed like I had insulted her. "Move back home? Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for her? For me?" "Oh," I replied, my tone sharper than before. "So my humiliation didn't matter. That was different," she snapped. This is extreme. You went behind our backs." "No." My voice cut through hers with a calm she didn't expect. "Emily went behind mine for months. She lied, she used me, she spread rumors to break up my marriage. She caused financial damage. She turned that apartment into a party house. And you knew she was irresponsible. You admitted it. But you didn't care. You laughed in my face." Silence crackled through the phone for 2 seconds. Only 2, but it was enough to hear her breathing shift, heavy, furious. Then she erupted again. "You should have come to me first." I did. My words were quiet, but they hit like a hammer. "I asked you for help. I begged you to take this seriously. And you laughed." "That doesn't mean you can just throw her out," she screamed. "She's 22. "She's 22, I corrected, and fully capable of taking responsibility for her actions, actions that nearly destroyed my life." "I swear," she hissed, "you're doing this because you're bitter, because you got caught cheating and now you're taking it out on my daughter." My stomach tightened. "I did not cheat, and you know it." "Oh, please," she shot back. "Where there's smoke, there's fire." It was like being slapped. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then something inside me snapped. Not anger, not rage, just exhaustion. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" she barked. "For finally telling me what you really think of me. It saves me the trouble of explaining anything to you ever again." There was a stunned silence, followed by another burst of fury. "You're ruining this family. When Emily gets home—" "She won't be coming home to me," I said firmly. "Not anymore. You can't just cut her off. I already have. You'll regret this," she shouted. "Maybe," I said softly, "but not as much as I regret letting both of you treat me like I didn't matter." I ended the call. Her shouting continued even after the screen went dark, but for the first time in a long time, the silence felt peaceful. That evening, after the chaos with my sister, the house felt strangely quiet. Not tense, not heavy, just still, as if the storm inside me had finally settled, leaving behind a space where truth could finally breathe. Daniel sat in the living room, scrolling through his phone with a seriousness that made my heart beat a little faster. When he looked up, his expression wasn't cold anymore. It was thoughtful, almost conflicted. "I need to talk to you," he said gently. I nodded and sat beside him, bracing myself. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned his phone toward me, showing me something I hadn't expected. A series of screenshots, messages, voice notes, even a short video. "Someone from Emily's college sent these to me," he said softly. "She was afraid you'd never get to see them, so she sent them to me instead." My stomach tightened as I clicked on the first audio clip. Emily's voice filled the room, laughing, bragging, confessing everything without hesitation. "I told everyone she was cheating. They believed it instantly. She's always so perfect. It was time she got knocked down a little." Another clip. "Daniel's acting weird about it? Good. Maybe they'll fight. Maybe they'll break up. Then she'll come crawling back to me like she used to." My breath hitched. I felt Daniel's hand rest on mine, steady and warm, offering comfort instead of suspicion. It almost broke me. The final clip was the worst. A video. Emily laughing with friends saying, "My aunt is too dumb to figure out it was me. She'll blame some stranger or coworker, but not sweet, innocent me." The words were poison, and yet they were also freedom. The truth wasn't whispered. It was recorded, documented, undeniable. I closed the phone, my hands trembling slightly. The room felt heavier, but not in the way it had before. This heaviness came from truth, finally taking up space. Daniel exhaled, his shoulders relaxing for the first time in weeks. "I am so sorry," he whispered. "I doubted you when I should have been on your side from the beginning." Tears stung my eyes. "It wasn't your fault. The rumor was convincing. She knew exactly what she was doing." He shook his head. "Still, I should have trusted you more." Then he pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly, relief washing over both of us. "I believe you," he murmured. "Completely." It was the apology I never thought I would hear. It was the closure I didn't realize I needed. For the first time since the nightmare began, I felt the weight lift. Truth had finally pushed its way into the open, and now there was nothing left to hide behind. Emily's eviction notice landed faster than she ever expected. According to the landlord, she had been in the middle of a casual afternoon hangout, laughing, music playing, friends sprawled across the couch, when the security officer knocked on her apartment door. She opened it with her usual confident smirk, but it disappeared the second the officer handed her the envelope. "Effective immediately," he said. "You have 72 hours to vacate the premises due to multiple violations." Her friends stared in stunned silence as she ripped the paper open, her hands shaking. "What? This must be a mistake. My aunt pays for everything," she snapped. But even as she said the words, her expression shifted, panic creeping in, because she knew. She knew exactly why this was happening. She tried calling me 23 times. I didn't answer a single one. She messaged Daniel, my sister, even some of her friends' parents. No one intervened. No one stopped the consequences rolling straight toward her. Word spread across campus faster than her original rumor had. Suddenly, everyone who once laughed at her dramatic stories now whispered about her downfall. The girl who boasted about manipulating her aunt? The same girl who bragged about ruining a marriage for attention? Yeah, people remembered. Her reputation collapsed overnight. One of her close friends even confronted her. "I can't believe you did that to your own family," she said, disgust clear in her voice. "You need help, Emily. Serious help." Then she walked out, leaving Emily standing there with the eviction notice trembling in her hands. Her boyfriend, yes, the one secretly living in the apartment I paid for, didn't take it well either. The moment he realized he'd be homeless too, he snapped. "This is your fault," he hissed. "You said your aunt was too stupid to stop paying." They fought so loudly the neighbors recorded it. By the end of the night, he packed his things and stormed out. Emily was alone. No friends, no boyfriend, no apartment, and no one left to blame except herself. Meanwhile, my sister spiraled. She yelled at the landlord, fought with Emily, tried shaming me into reversing everything, but nothing worked. Reality forced her to see the daughter she had defended so blindly. Emily eventually sent one last message, a long, frantic apology filled with excuses, tears, and desperate promises to never do it again. But apologies don't erase destruction. and trust, once shattered, doesn't magically reassemble. She had to face the one thing she had avoided her whole life: accountability. For once, the consequences didn't fall on me. They fell on the girl who had built her world on lies, and it was only the beginning. When the dust finally settled, the silence that followed did not feel empty. It felt earned, hard-won, a quiet space carved out of weeks of chaos, tears, betrayal, and painful truth. For the first time in a long while, I could breathe without feeling a knot tighten in my chest. Daniel and I spent that first calm night sitting on the couch, not talking about rumors, not dissecting lies, not bracing for another wave of damage. We simply held hands, and that simple closeness, once threatened by the sharp edge of doubt, felt like a miracle. "We're going to be okay," he whispered. And I believed him. Rebuilding didn't happen instantly. Trust doesn't snap back like a rubber band. But now the process felt real, intentional, rooted in understanding rather than confusion. Daniel checked in more. He apologized often, not dramatically, but gently, consistently. I opened up more, too, sharing the pain I had hidden behind forced composure. We were healing, together. A week later, Emily finally texted me again, not with anger this time, not with entitlement or manipulation, but with something closer to fear. "Auntie, can we talk? Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to get this bad." I stared at the message for a long time. My heart tugged in two directions, one part remembering the little girl who used to hold my hand, the other remembering the grown woman who had set my life on fire without hesitation. Eventually, I agreed to meet her in a public park. She arrived looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, eyes puffy, shoulders hunched, clutching a sweater sleeve like she was anchoring herself. "Auntie, I messed up," she whispered. "I didn't think it would go that far. I wanted you to need me again." The confession didn't shock me anymore. I had already accepted it. What mattered now was what I chose to do with it. "Emily," I said softly, "love doesn't grow when you burn everything around it. You wanted attention, but you tried to get it by destroying the people who loved you most." Her tears spilled over. "Can you forgive me?" Forgiveness is a complicated thing. It isn't forgetting. It isn't pretending nothing happened. It's choosing peace without reopening the door to the same destruction. "I forgive you," I said. "But things won't go back to the way they were. That version of us doesn't exist anymore." She nodded slowly, understanding more deeply than any words could reach. As she walked away that day, I felt no satisfaction in her regret, only relief in my clarity. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine again. And this time, no rumor, no manipulation, no betrayal would ever take it from me.